All right, so Josh is making us play Guild Wars, which means we've broken the seal on my special interest, and now we're resurrecting our long dead series, Say versus Death, and we're going to be killing characters faster, harder, and in greater quantities than ever before. The two of you are going to be playing the Portal Under the Stars, which is the suggested first level, I say first level, the suggested starter adventure for the Dungeon Crawl Classics RPG.
Great.
So, where does this originate? Like, did this come up, I assume, after uh, Dungeons and Dragons?
Yes, this game is actually from 2012, which
Oh, wow.
I played it for the first time in 2012. So the kinds of people like I played with were first into the breach in this kind of bullshit. This is a game which has an old school ethos, some modern touches, a vastly more inclusive player culture, and just like an army of hitters out there to propagate this game everywhere they can. It is everything about this is for like deep lore RPG nerds, the kind of like me, actually exactly like me.
This whole "it was made for me."
Yes, this is my hole. Welcome to my hole. We're going to be playing it
This is
today.
great.
It's the Portal Under the Stars.
All right.
So this is probably going to be one of the easier games we have ever played on the series, as in like the amount of time it's going to take you to learn how to play this is extremely minimal. Character creation just involves following some instructions, and because I bought the compendium, we could just do it with the push of a button here. The first thing you will notice, as Chris has pointed out, is that each of you have 4 characters. That's because Dungeon Crawl Classics uses what's called the funnel system, where you make 4 characters, or maybe like 2 or 3, but often 4, and they're all level 0. They're all randomly generated. You make no real decisions in creating these characters except like naming them and maybe flavoring them. And maybe some of them survive to reach level 1, maybe all of them do, but you kind of build a pool of player characters. And the reason you do that is because unlike traditional, unlike the way Dungeons and Dragons kind of is played these days, this game places a very high emphasis on it is what it is. Sometimes you eat the bear, sometimes the bear eats you. You're not meant to mourn a character too badly, and if you do mourn a character, it should be because you've had them for like dozens and dozens of adventures.
So I've heard of like using like start systems like this for Dungeons and Dragons itself, like from members of my tabletop gaming group. They've talked about that. We've never actually done one of those, but like, is that something that originates here and got popular elsewhere, or is it like a homebrew thing that they looked at and said like, that's an interesting mechanic, we'll bring it into this like classic inspired game because it does kind of amp up the, like, to an extent, comical lethality of like the old school Dungeons and Dragons kind of feel that this is obviously going for?
That's a good question. The answer is actually kind of mixed. So, in a sense, you could say this is the earliest tradition of the game, in the sense that, like, when Guy Jax ran games in Lake Geneva, according to people who played with him and enjoyed the experience enough to talk about it, it was pretty standard for people to roll multiple characters at a time. It was pretty standard for them to not survive more than a session or two. And it's like you keep the good ones. From my recollection of the OD&D box set, which is to say the original set that was released in 1974, that is just a horrible kludge of rules, just absolute nonsensical nightmare clown factory of kludge rules.
We did that in the previous episode of Save versus Death 7 years ago.
Like it basically says that that's the sort of thing that happens in that game too. So it presents the idea that large groups of characters are necessary to ensure their survival, and it seems to expect bigger parties than would become standard for like the entire rest of the hobby's history. The thing is, when I say that this is a Guy Jaxian tradition, what I mean is that really not a lot of other people could stand it or like to play that way. And very quickly the game became something else as soon as it was taken out of his hands. Because he wasn't a good businessman.
Yeah, and also, like, apparently not a great guy to work with from everyone who has any stories about the guy.
I'll be honest. I'm sure I haven't really read a lot about Guy Jackson. Makes me think that I'd want to be in a room with him for more than 30 seconds.
No.
But in terms of like how the play experience, that kind of there's something to that. Like there's something to that way of playing the game, which divorced from however he was running it and however people were enjoying it, is kind of an interesting experience and one that I think can I've sort of seen it like open people's eyes a little bit to more ways of playing classic fantasy RPGs. So we'll sort of kind of see how we like it here.
Probably not something you would want to do for someone who's never played a tabletop game before. Hey, don't get attached to your characters because they're all gonna die.
I don't think there's really a wrong way to start in RPGs as long as you have a good time.
Sure.
And I think you can have a good time a lot of ways, but we're just gonna jump in here. So each of you, like I said, has 4 characters. I've numbered them 1 through 4. Just start with number 1, I guess. And you should be seeing something
it annoys me that my 1 is above my 2. So I've got Josh 4, 3, 1, and 2. Oh, did you? I don't see that, but sure,
did
okay.
Just fix it, but okay.
There we go. All right.
All right. So if you click on it, it should have do you see an option for use character guide?
There is no options.
Yes. No, you have to click on one of them, Chris.
I did.
Characters, and it'll pop up.
I have a window that has Chris 4, bio and info tab, and nothing.
Huh. I've got one that popped up with a use character guide and manually edit. I wonder what
if I click Chris 3, that shows stuff.
Oh, yeah, I know.
Chris
4 is busted. Chris 4 doesn't exist. Chris 4 has already fallen.
What? This doesn't make any sense.
Oh, aren't digital tools great?
Okay.
Well, we'll just skip Chris 4 and we'll go.
No, you guys are going to need all 8 characters. Do you have the option plus character in the top left?
Okay. Should I just give it a name and hit go?
Yeah. So here's how this works. First, you're going to be rolling your ability scores. Now, as you may know, more recent games have had a tradition of you roll 4 dice, you take the lowest one away, so you only get the 3 highest dice, and then you assign those to the stat where you think it belongs. So this creates a character who's both heroic and has is in line with what you want the character to be. Dungeon Roll Classics, it's completely random. You're just going to hit roll ability scores, and it's going to roll 3d6, and it's going to assign them in order to strength, agility, stamina, personality, luck, and intelligence.
Okay.
So when you're ready, just go ahead and roll your ability scores.
Do I hit use character guide to do that?
Yeah.
All right. Roll ability scores. Let's do it. Hang on a second. I think my 3D dice might have been turned on. No, I just didn't get to see the dice.
I saw them.
We all saw
them. They didn't show up. Maybe they ended up under the window. All right, cool. This isn't terrible for 3D6, honestly.
All right, what do we got? Josh, walk me through your scores.
Okay, so I have 9 strength, 13 agility, 13 stamina, 10 personality, 11 luck, and 8 intelligence.
Yeah, not bad at all. Dungeon Classics, like a lot of the earlier editions of the game, has less variability in terms of your modifiers, which is to say that whereas like a 9 is a -1 penalty and a 12 is a +1 bonus in Modern Dungeons & Dragons, in this game, you really need to kind of get up there in numbers before it starts making a huge difference. Or down there, as the case may be.
Right.
All right.
Earth Augur.
Yeah, well, before we get to that, Chris, what'd you get?
How do I make it do?
Make
What?
it do what?
Make it roll the dice and pre-populate that. I can click on individual.
The black and white, like the black and white text that's roll ability scores. Click that.
I see disable roll options.
Okay. I think that the problem that happened with Josh happened with you too.
Which is?
I hit
you
roll
should be
ability
getting
scores
a
and
like,
let me
you
choose
should be
to
getting like
roll the
a
dice.
roll character using wizard option.
Yeah, the use.
Where would I see that button?
So if you open the
Okay.
character, I don't even see Chris's character.
Chris, we're gonna start over. Go to Chris 1 at the top of the character bar.
Okay.
And when click it,
click roll
do you
ability
see two options for manually edit and use the character builder?
You brought it up as soon as you made it. I see Chris 1. I see randomize all, roll ability scores, birth augur, roll HP, all that stuff.
Okay, great. Yeah, roll ability score.
Oh, hey, I saw those. Okay, yeah, they are under the window. That's neat.
No, I didn't see them either, so. Okay, so I got good luck, terrible personality, pretty good stamina. Are we doing birth augur? Do we need that?
Well, yes, we're going to be doing that next.
Okay, so what do I do?
Now you click roll birth augur.
There's no roll.
That didn't do anything. Yeah, clicking on it doesn't do anything.
It doesn't? It doesn't? For fuck's sake.
Nope.
All right, you know what? Fuck this. I'm just going to create all of your characters for you. It doesn't make a difference. It's all random. For some reason, it's working on my end. It's not working on yours. I don't know why. This won't take long. I'm just going to delete all the characters we've currently got. We'll be in a minute.
All right.
All right. So I've taken the liberty of rolling characters for everybody.
Yeah, it worked when you did it.
Yes. So, as you see, you have 4 characters here. The things that have been determined for you are the stats, which most of them are probably going to be lower, middling, and have little enough effect. If you've got a modifier of minus or plus 2, that's fairly exceptional. If you've got a plus 3, that's like a top end character. If you've got a minus 3, that's a very funny character.
I have.
In addition to that, you've
2
rolled hit points
with a minus 2 modifier. So, and they're both agility. They both have 5 agility, which is
not amazing. You're going to get hit a lot. You have an amount of hit points between 1 and 4, which is then modified by your stamina. It can only go as low as 1, fortunately. You have an alignment, which I just assign them all random fucking alignments. If you don't see an alignment for one, it does, we'll worry about it later. Honestly, this only really comes up once your character's level 1, unless you want to do a determined job of embodying each of your 4 characters, which I suspect will not come up. Your birth augur. So this is cool. So everybody has a birth augur, which is a sign that your character was born under. And the effect of that is, if you've got a positive or negative luck modifier, your birth augur means your bonus applies to that thing. So, for example, Josh 1 lived through famine, so their luck modifier, if they had one, which they do not, would apply to fortitude saving throws. Sometimes these are really good. Like, sometimes these are, like, melee damage for a character that ends up being a warrior. And sometimes you get something that will literally never come up in the entire, like, lifespan of your character.
I have 2 characters that have a non-zero luck modifier, and they're both -1. So thank you for that, Rutskarn.
Fantastic. Next, occupation. So there was a table with 100, well, a 1d100 table. Not quite 100 results. There's a few ranges in there, but you randomly generate your character's occupation. This may also make them an elf, a halfling, or a dwarf. This comes up in the sense that like you're especially good at things that your occupation is related to, or at least not terrible at those things. And you also have some equipment, which you randomly generated a weapon. You have one trade good from your profession. You have a random piece of equipment, and you have 5d12 copper pieces, which I believe like 100 copper pieces is 1 silver, and so forth.
So something weird that happened here. Josh 1 seems to be on a compacted form of the character sheet. The other ones have like a full character sheet. I think it looks like it's all the same information, but it's organized differently.
Are you perhaps on the okay, you're on the first page character sheet?
Yep. Yep.
I cannot account for this. I genuinely have no idea what's going on.
Is NPC sheet checked in the upper right?
Nope.
All right, so let's look at what characters we've got here. Josh, you've got a halfling wanderer who lived through famine.
Yep.
A guild beggar. A shaman. And an elf forester. Oh. 2 non-humans. Chris, you've got an elf barrister, which is one of my favorite origins because you pretty much just get to decide whatever a barrister is to you. Fortune teller. A gambler. And a cheesemaker.
Oh man, he gets to have a cheesemaker?
To be honest, a cheesemaker is currently one of my best characters in the campaign I'm in.
Now, to clarify, these are not classes. These are like backgrounds.
They're not. The class, if you survive your first adventure, you're given enough XP to make it to first level in one of the classes.
Right. Yep.
If you're a human, you have the choice of thief, wizard, cleric, or warrior. If you're not a human, you have the choice of halfling, elf, or dwarf if you're a halfling, elf, or dwarf, respectively.
Right, okay.
Okay, go ahead and give each of your characters a name, and if you want... Do we want to, like... So, these characters are going to be, like, on the map here. You know what? I'm just going to give you some tokens.
I just realized I named my gambler Gruff Bluffman.
Okay, so this game is fantastic for stupid character names. In the campaign I'm in, we have a tradition that halflings always have, like, just the worst fucking names we can come up with. So, among the halflings who've died in the service of the guild are Little Switch Top Bottom and Nuck Bucklefunk.
Amazing.
I mean, I named my lived through famine halfling wanderer Tom Grainbags.
Nice. The irony is palpable.
Josh, did you name one of your characters Chris 4?
I sure as fuck did.
All right. Okay, we've got all our characters, we've got everything ready. Honestly, The rules to this game, I don't even feel like need more than maybe 30 seconds of briefing, which is, if you want to use one of your stats for something, ask me, and I'll tell you whether or not to roll it. Otherwise, the way old school games work is, the emphasis is on what you narrate yourself doing, more than your character's stats. So kind of like just making decisions that make sense, or like thinking about how you're engaging with the environment and being specific in your narration, rather than like just kind of assuming your character will take care of it. So like a good example is that, you know, if you're searching for a trap, generally you're asked to like, unless you have like you find trap skill because you're a thief, I'm going to be asking you like, how are you searching for a trap? Like, what are you looking for? You have to just kind of like think about it as your character would and make the appropriate decision.
Right.
As far as you're concerned right now at level 0, that's pretty much it. So I think without further ado, we're just going to go ahead and begin. For long years, you labored in the field like all the peasants. sweating hot and dirty in the summer, only to shiver under the threadbare hides when winter came. This year's harvest ended like all the rest, and autumn's work was hard on Old Man Roberts. When you visited his bedside at the end, he spoke in labored breaths of constellations that hadn't been seen since he was a young lad. The last time the empty star had risen in the sky, it was more than 50 winters past, he said. Under the light of that strange star, a portal had opened by the old stone mounds. He'd seen jewels in there, and fine steel spears and enameled armor. But he'd run when the Iron Men had attacked. Now, old and dying, he wishes he'd taken the chance on a life of adventure. The empty star is once more rising, and a young person with courage could be more than just another peasant, if only they'd take the chance. Old Man Roberts hadn't. You're taking that chance. You stand before the monolithic rocks of the old stone mound, under the dark light of a starry sky. The empty star is clear and bright above you. 3 of the large stone blocks lean haphazardly to form an upright rectangular portal about the size of a person. They seem to be placed directly beneath the star's path. As the empty star ascends to its brightest point, its light catches in the portal, and a shimmering stone-lined corridor is visible through the stones, but only from one side of the opening. Grasping your pitchfork with your white knuckles, you step into the starlit portal, which was not there before today. Thoughts of jewels and scorching wheat fields foremost in your mind. Alright, I'm going to be moving the ribbon to the map here.
Alrighty.
Now what you should all be seeing here is just like the 3 stones and the doorway through them. Yes?
Yes, and also a graphics performance warning. So that's cool.
Fuck yeah. Alright, so from here on, I'm going to be following this module fairly strictly, which is to say, when you enter a room, I will read the description. It gives to be read when you enter the room. Otherwise, I will be relying on all of you to narrate what you're doing. Chris, your characters are green. Josh, your characters are red. I try to pick avatars that were vaguely reminiscent of each one, but if you're unclear as to which or which, you could just... I
can, like... So from my perspective, I can see my tokens. Chris's tokens are below mine and like largely cut off as if they're in shadow.
How's that?
There we go. Okay,
there we go.
That works better. These are very red, and that's actually more yellow than green, but sure.
Interesting.
I mean, I see mine as very red. Do you not see mine as very red?
I see yours as quite red. I do also see them as
yes.
green. So I mean, but this is between us and the cones of our eyes, not necessarily like.
So what do we do?
All right.
Are we just telling Rutskarn what we're doing?
Characters now, right?
Yep. Yep. Just narrate. You can also move your token to represent how you're moving.
Well, do we want to run through our characters and?
Oh yes, that's right.
Even care to do that? Yeah.
Why don't you introduce me to your characters?
All right. So first off, I've got Tom Grainbags, a halfling warrior or a halfling wanderer who lived through famine. Has a rather poor bodily condition, but a pretty decent personality, which still doesn't actually amount to any kind of modifier points. Then I have Svetlana Stalwart, a shaman who resisted temptation, who is actually much stronger and in better physical shape than Tom Grainbags, but has really crappy luck and personality and just abysmal agility. And then, of course, I have Lou Largeaxe, my elven forester, which sounds like a contradiction in terms, honestly, but sure. He's got decent physical stats, but everything else kind of sucks. And then, of course, finally, I have Christopher IV. because I wouldn't
A
let him
guild
die
beggar.
from the pre-setup. A guild beggar who is the 7th son of a middling family who actually has probably the best spread of stats that I've got in this particular set of characters, so he's probably going to die immediately.
All right, Chris, who we got?
We got Ronnie Licky-Doo. Ronnie Licky-Doo is a cheesemaker born under the sign of the righteous heart. He's got bad luck and perfectly average everything else.
God damn, you're not kidding. He's got a 4 in luck.
Then there's Gruff Bluffman, my personal favorite, who I expect to die because he's my favorite. He's a gambler named Gruff Bluffman. His birth augur is the Raging Storm, which improves spell damage should he ever be able to cast anything. He's got decent stamina and decent personality, but not much else.
I think this is the highest cumulative total we've seen so far, actually.
Then there's Ezekiel Candycorn, a fortune teller, born under the sign of Birdsong, giving them a number of languages if they had better luck, and they don't. They have a bunch of +1s and -1s all over the place.
So do they actually know fewer than 1 languages because they have a -1 luck?
I defer to Rutskarn on that. I have no idea.
Sorry, what was the question?
Ezekiel
do they know
Candycorn.
fewer than 1 languages because they have a -1 luck modifier?
They do not.
Damn.
And then finally there's Cromblow Elfantine, an elven barrister who has Wild Child, which gives them speed. Unfortunately, it's +1 or +5 speed for every +1 and -5 speed for every -1. So I think I just have -10 speed. So despite being born under the speed augur, I think I have... Unless it's just luck. Is it just luck?
I think that's just luck.
Okay, then I have no modification to speed.
Yep.
So there you go. Those are my characters.
All right.
All right. I'm actually just putting everybody's names on their token.
Oh,
Make it a
cool.
little, because if you've got characters that you like better than others, I'm gonna help you make sure they're in the back of the...
Just putting them in the back of the party make them more likely to survive.
Well, maybe. I mean, couldn't hurt, right? Okay.
All right, so what are we doing? Do we want to go in? I assume that's why we gathered 8 of our friends together.
No, end of session.
Back to a life of sustenance farming.
Time to go back to Guild Wars.
Ugh. Even though the hallway is only visible from one side of the portal, you tread on solid flagstones. The starlight fades as it reaches into this hallway, which dead ends at a stout, iron-bounded door. I'm going to be revealing that here.
I was going to go in and look at it.
Okay.
She's trying.
Okay. So on the door, jewels or crystals in an odd assortment of star shapes are inscribed on the door.
Do I have any ability to know what they mean?
Good question. Give me an intelligence check for Ronnie Licky-Doo.
One moment. How do I... Oh my god, this interface.
I don't remember what my stats are here. Who is my best?
Click your character, and then you just click on the intelligence score. It should roll for.
17.
Fantastic. Yes. These resemble the constellations outside, and based on the way the empty star was moving, you think that very soon the empty star will be in such a position that it will resemble the gems on this door. It's just a matter of, waiting an hour.
Do we want to chill for an hour, or do you think... What do y'all think?
Okay, we stepped through the portal, and so we're not in the same space anymore, right?
Yes, but you can
What
see
happens-
the starlight at the beginning of the hallway.
Right, but presumably that portal's going to get cut off, right?
As far as you know, based on the dying peasant's words, it's not going to happen tonight.
Okay.
Or at the very least, like you've got like 12 hours or something.
I think Svetlana, as a shaman, kind of comes up here and starts looking around at examining the corridor to see if there are any additional astral signs or other artwork.
It's austere.
Okay, do you want to wait an hour? The big RPG adventure of waiting for a door to open like it's a theme
Christopher
park.
the Fourth just kind of puts down his pack and sits on it. Not like we have anything else to do.
Okay, understood. You wait an hour, and
We all die.
the door swings easily open. Beyond, you see this room. Across from this room is another stout door. 4 iron statues flank the door, 2 to a side. Each statue depicts a different fighting man in a round iron helmet and thick-scaled armor, holding a long spear in throwing position. All the spear tips are aimed at the door through which you would be entering.
Tom Greenbags walks up and looks around to see if there's any kind of obvious triggering mechanism that might, make the statues throw.
What are you looking at for an obvious trigger mechanism?
Like the doorway, the opening, is there like maybe a slightly differently textured stone or something that might indicate a pressure plate or a wire?
The stonework is easy.
Well, who wants to take the first step?
Ezekiel Candycorn rushes in and stops on the first tile.
Okay, as soon as Ezekiel Candycorn enters the room, left it hanging there. 2 of the statues hurl their spears immediately at the door.
Ezekiel Candycorn would like to dodge.
Well, we will have to determine whether that happened. Alright. That was a 15 and a 9. Let's see, what's Ezekiel's armor class? Armor class 10. Alright, that's 1 hit. Let me roll damage. 8.
Oh my god,
Alright,
he's
Ezekiel's
so dead.
Spear goes straight through Ezekiel Candycorn's throat. The next one clangs harmlessly off of the wall.
Who wants to go next? Red guys, I'd volunteer one of you.
Was that your favorite guy?
Oh, no, that was absolutely not Gruff Bluffman.
He did have the best intelligence of all of us. He was the smartest, the greatest of us.
He was also a fortune teller who ran headfirst into this room and died. So,
Yeah!